The gaming industry has changed a lot. The games went from physical to digital, microtransactions now aren't even exclusive to free-to-play games. Hell, you can find them in some of the games that cost you $60, which isn't a small amount of money, but enough about that. Today I would like to take you back in time, to the early 2000s. While the new millennium was beginning, the trend of gaming magazines was still pretty huge, and every kid that couldn't afford new shiny games would usually rely on them, including me. Still remember running into a local store, grabbing the newest paper gaming goodness for less than $5 and getting games packaged with it. Reviews and information on new titles too, but who cares about that? Sometimes they would have some older games that were very good and totally worth the price, or completely new releases in some cases. Why am I telling you this? Well, because the game I got introduced to, thanks to them, still amazes me to this day. Targem Games are a studio you might know because of their game Crossout, which seems to be semi-popular thanks to the multiple YouTubers that get sponsored by it.
How many horsepower you think this is?
And it is a spiritual successor to the game we'll be talking about today. But before becoming a developer mostly known for that piece of free-to-play software outside of their own country, they made smaller titles that were only a hit on the local Russian market. The studio itself was founded in 2002 and has released more than 20 games over the years. Most of their titles received a mixed response but sold pretty well nonetheless. It was enough to keep the team going. After the contract with Buka Entertainment back in 2002 and the successful release of Battle Mages in 2003, and then a DLC to it in 2004, the team wanted to try something completely new, something you might have never heard of, a vehicular combat-based RPG. At first, the game might seem very mediocre and obscure, thanks to its outdated graphics, weird characters, and cheesy dialogue, but most of its fun lays in the RPG elements, trading, exploration, and combat. When you're first thrown into the hard truck apocalypse world, you're treated with a very basic tutorial that shows the controls. After that, you're free to drive your first truck, which at the start is very weak and only has basic equipment to survive in the unforgiving European wasteland. Then, a few minutes later, after crossing a bridge, the player will encounter their main enemy and source of problems later on throughout the game. A raider. The enemies in game seem to scale with the player's progress as he or she travels. First, we'll encounter small but fast cars that will later change into military trucks carrying heavy weaponry such as rockets or plasma cannons. But how do you make enough money to afford the upgrades to be strong enough to survive? Well, through quests, doing small errands, exploring and trading. The errands themselves seem to be very similar in objectives to each other, which usually include killing a bunch of enemies, delivering an object, or message from point A to B. These small and repetitive side quests always make the same dialogue pop out, and so if you're tired of them, you can just say no. As cool as they are, after some time they get quite boring except for the bandit extermination, since it can be done on the entire map and is only limited by time. Another way to make money in-game, which was previously mentioned, is exploration. You don't get paid directly by discovering new cities or new points on the map. Instead, the developers have hidden different packages with all sorts of loot sprinkled throughout the maps. They're pretty hard to see or find, but they do sometimes contain very expensive resources or rare weapons. One more way to make easy cash is trading. It's not really that advanced, but its mechanic of supply and demand keeps you driving around cities and towns to sell and buy items at the best possible prices. Another way to make money is to progress the main story and complete side quests. Most of the quests have additional things and objectives in them, such as teammates, bosses, unusual items and unique characters to keep the gameplay fresh and interesting. The other thing that will keep you interested in the game is the story. The story shows a post-apocalyptic Europe after a crash of an unidentified object called the Cataclysm. After the crash, the atmosphere becomes poisonous and most of the world is destroyed. Due to the invention of a special mask by an unknown genius, people manage to survive. Cataclysm caused government, law and order to completely vanish, causing raiders to roam the earth. People begin to create small closed-off communities. Trucks become highly valued because of their protection from bandits and the capability to transport resources. By doing various activities like farming, trading, manufacturing and hard work, citizens try to forget the horrors of the past. Ivan Go, the great explorer and discoverer, goes on another journey and gives the responsibility for his child to Peter, his friend. The child later grows up and the time comes when he's old enough to drive Peter's truck by himself. The man orders Ivan's child to do an errand for him. The young man is thrilled and drives away. During his drive, he meets a girl. Her name is Alice. While he returns to the village, he finds out that his home has been attacked, there's fire everywhere, and everyone's dead. He becomes enraged and wants to take revenge for the massacre. He suspects that the local gang has done it. Later on, he discovers that it wasn't them. He learns from the local gang leader that it could have something to do with Alice. Here, the long journey of our hero begins. One of the amazing things that the game has is its soundtrack. It has slow and peaceful melodies that make driving long distances a pleasure. Quick, energetic songs to keep you sharp and focused on the target. Or music that will make you feel uneasy, warning you about the looming threat. There are even more great tracks which I really recommend listening to. The man responsible for the soundtrack is Anton Popov, born March 23rd, 1973 in the city of Nizhny Tagil. He began his work with Targem Games after meeting Stash Skorb at the birthday party, which he mentions in his interview with GameHost. Tell me, what made you want to join the gaming industry? Why games specifically all of a sudden?
How did I get into it? By accident actually. The current director of Targem Games, Stash Skorb, which is my close friend's wife's brother-in-law. Once, at a birthday party of Yudochka, the wife of my friend and sister of the wife of my current director, we met with Stas and he asked, "Do you currently write music?" And I said yeah. He suggested trying to write a couple tracks for their first project, Battle Mages, and I gladly agreed. For me, it was something new. After a couple of tracks, I was ordered a couple more tracks, and then even more, until the whole project was completed. Then there was a pause for 6 months, and then Stas suggested writing for Targem full-time, and I agreed. That, in fact, is the whole story.
The in-game music works really well with the visuals and creates this incredible atmosphere that you won't find anywhere else. Most of the environments are depressing and dark, as you would expect from post-apocalypse. The character design is great. Every model is unique, and their designs show where the people that they represent come from, what they are like, and what faction they belong to. Some of them are weird and obscure, but in my opinion that's what makes them special. The cities and towns those characters live in are very interesting and tend to have unusual shapes and sizes, with only some familiar structures like oil pumps or power lines. The structures also seem to change with the setting you go to. In the jungle you might see some huts made out of mud, and in the more technologically advanced region you can find fortresses made out of steel and electricity all around. The trucks themselves range from an old truck you would see driving around a European city to these big metal beasts that will tear anything in their sights. Most of the weapons will seem familiar, but as the player will venture further into the story, We'll see more unusual ones like plasma cannons or mine droppers. From the design of the trucks, you can see and feel how heavy they are. As they get hit and their health bars go lower, you will notice that the trucks take physical damage and their model shows that. As you go on, you will unlock upgrades that will make your truck an indestructible force to be reckoned with. Before this video ends, I would like to thank my friends Wheezy and Cheecken for helping me with the video and motivating me to keep on going and making it. This video was made for Cheecken's video making contest. I suggest you check his content, it's amazing. You guys will probably love it. And yeah, see you around.
Odchodzą, zabierz mnie. Odchodzą, zabierz mnie.